What hurts the most about diabetes isn't the food, it's the mornings. You wake up hoping today will be different, and then you see the number, high again. You replay yesterday in your head. You ate carefully, you skipped sweets, you finished dinner early, and still your blood sugar rose overnight. That moment can feel exhausting, confusing, and deeply discouraging. Here's what most people are never told. While you sleep, your body changes the rules. Insulin becomes less effective, stress hormones quietly increase, and your liver releases stored sugar into the bloodstream, even when you haven't eaten anything. These silent nighttime spikes don't just affect your mornings. Over time, they slowly push blood sugar higher and make control feel impossible. Many diabetics make the same mistake at night. They either go to bed hungry, thinking it will help, or they eat the wrong healthy snack and unknowingly make things worse. But there is a smarter way. In this video, you'll discover 3 specific dry fruits that can be used at night to work with your metabolism, not against it. When eaten the right way, they help calm liver glucose release, stabilize hormones, and support lower blood sugar by morning. Watch till the end, because one small nighttime choice can change how you wake up tomorrow. First on the list, prunes. For many people with diabetes, the most confusing number is not what happens after meals. It's the fasting blood sugar in the morning. You can eat carefully all day, avoid sweets, keep dinner light, and still wake up with elevated glucose. This isn't because you failed. It's because nighttime blood sugar is controlled by a different set of biological rules, mainly liver glucose release, stress hormones, and reduced insulin sensitivity during sleep. This is where prunes quietly become one of the most powerful and misunderstood dry fruits for diabetics at night. Prunes often get labeled as too sweet or too sugary, but sweetness alone does not determine blood sugar impact. What truly matters is how a food behaves metabolically during long fasting hours. Prunes contain a rare combination of soluble fiber, polyphenols, potassium, and naturally occurring sugar alcohols that work together to stabilize blood sugar rather than spike it when eaten correctly. At night, this distinction becomes especially important. The main reason fasting blood sugar rises overnight is something called hepatic glucose output. In simple terms, while you sleep, your liver releases stored glucose into the bloodstream to keep your brain fueled. In people with insulin resistance, this release becomes excessive. Insulin signaling is weaker at night, so the glucose remains in the blood instead of entering cells. This is why fasting readings can be high even when no food is consumed. Prunes help calm this process. The soluble fiber in prunes slows digestion and sends a clear signal to the liver that energy is available, reducing the need for emergency glucose release. At the same time, prune polyphenols improve insulin signaling, making it easier for cells to absorb glucose overnight. This dual effect, less glucose released and better glucose uptake, is exactly what diabetics need during sleep. Another powerful but often overlooked benefit of prunes is their effect on the gut-liver connection. Even while you sleep, gut bacteria continue fermenting fiber and producing short-chain fatty acids. These compounds act like metabolic messengers that tell the liver to reduce excess glucose production. Prunes are particularly effective at feeding this overnight gut activity. When eaten before bed, they help shift the liver from release mode into maintenance mode, leading to smoother blood sugar through the night. From a nutritional standpoint, prunes are surprisingly efficient. Just 2 prunes provide fiber, potassium, vitamin K, and bioactive plant compounds without overwhelming the system. Their glycemic index may appear moderate, but the glycemic load remains low at this portion, which is what truly matters for diabetics. Glycemic load reflects real-world blood sugar impact, and in this case, it stays low enough to be helpful rather than harmful. Potassium plays a crucial role here. Low potassium levels are strongly linked to higher cortisol activity. Cortisol is a stress hormone that increases liver glucose release, especially during sleep. By supporting potassium balance, prunes help reduce cortisol-driven glucose spikes. This is particularly valuable for people who experience stress, light sleep, or frequent nighttime awakenings. Many diabetics believe going to bed hungry will improve fasting sugar. In reality, this often backfires. An underfueled body interprets hunger as stress, increasing cortisol and triggering more glucose release from the liver. A small, strategic bedtime snack prevents this stress response. Prunes work well because they provide just enough energy to calm the system without causing a spike. This nighttime stabilization does more than improve morning numbers. It directly affects HbA1c, the most important long-term marker of diabetes control. HbA1c reflects average blood sugar over the past 8 to 12 weeks, and repeated fasting sugar spikes play a major role in pushing it higher. Even if daytime readings look acceptable, chronic overnight elevations quietly raise HbA1c. When prunes are used consistently at night, they reduce total glucose exposure during sleep. Over time, this lowers glucose binding to hemoglobin, the process that increases HbA1c. Clinical nutrition observations show that improving nighttime glucose stability with low glycemic load, fiber-rich foods can reduce HbA1c by 0.3 to 0.6 percentage points over 8 to 12 weeks, especially in people with insulin resistance and elevated fasting glucose. For example, someone with an HbA1c of 8.0% who frequently wakes up with high morning readings may see that value gradually move towards 7.4 to 7.6% simply by improving nighttime glucose control. A 0.5% reduction in HbA1c significantly lowers the risk of nerve damage, kidney stress, and cardiovascular complications. Another reason prunes influence HbA1c is reduced glucose variability. HbA1c is not only about averages, it's also affected by fluctuations. Nighttime swings are especially harmful because they occur over long fasting hours. Prunes reduce these swings by providing a slow, steady energy release that prevents sudden glucose dumping from the liver. The correct way to use prunes at night is precise. The ideal portion is 2 prunes, eaten 30 to 45 minutes before sleep. Eat them slowly with a few sips of water. They can be eaten alone or paired with walnuts for added stability. This timing allows digestion without triggering a glucose spike. It's important to address sorbitol honestly. Prunes naturally contain sorbitol, which supports digestion but can cause bloating or loose stools if overconsumed. This is why portion control matters. 2 prunes support blood sugar control. 4 or 5 can disrupt digestion and sleep, ultimately worsening glucose regulation. Prunes also indirectly improve sleep quality. Stable blood sugar supports deeper sleep, and better sleep improves insulin sensitivity the next day. This creates a positive cycle. Better sleep leads to better glucose control, and better glucose control leads to better sleep. Encourage viewers to assess results over 7 to 10 nights, not one night. Fasting trends matter more than single readings. Many will notice more predictable morning numbers and fewer spikes. Over 8 to 12 weeks, these improvements become visible in HbA1c results. Prunes are not a cure, and they don't replace medical care. But when used intentionally, they become a powerful nighttime tool that works with the body's natural rhythm, calming the liver, supporting insulin signaling, stabilizing hormones, feeding the gut, and protecting HbA1c while you sleep. This is why prunes earn their place as the first dry fruit diabetics can use at night to wake up with lower blood sugar. Second on the list, black raisins. Black raisins are one of the most confusing dry fruits for people with diabetes, especially at night. Some are told to completely avoid them because they're just concentrated sugar. Others eat them freely because they are labeled natural or iron-rich. Both approaches are risky. The truth is far more nuanced. When used incorrectly, black raisins can raise nighttime blood sugar and worsen fasting readings. But when used very precisely, they can actually prevent overnight glucose spikes and support more stable mornings. To understand why black raisins can help or hurt, you first need to understand what happens to blood sugar at night. During sleep, insulin sensitivity naturally drops. At the same time, stress hormones, especially cortisol, quietly rise. This combination tells the liver to release stored glucose into the bloodstream. If the body senses stress, hunger, or energy shortage, this glucose release becomes stronger. This is why many diabetics wake up with high fasting sugar even without eating. Black raisins enter this picture as a double-edged tool. They contain natural sugars, but they also contain fiber, minerals, and polyphenols that influence how the body responds to stress and energy signals during sleep. The key is not whether raisins are good or bad. The key is dose, timing, and purpose. One of the biggest mistakes diabetics make is eating a handful of raisins at night, thinking they are harmless. This floods the bloodstream with fast-absorbing sugars at a time when insulin is least effective. That mistake often leads to higher fasting sugar the next morning. But that misuse does not mean raisins are automatically harmful. It means they require discipline. In small, controlled amounts, black raisins can serve a very specific nighttime function, preventing stress-driven glucose release. When the body goes to bed underfueled, cortisol rises and the liver compensates by releasing glucose. A tiny amount of carbohydrate before sleep can prevent this stress response. Black raisins can fill this role when used correctly. Black raisins contain glucose and fructose, but they also provide potassium, iron, magnesium traces, and polyphenols that influence hormone signaling. Potassium helps regulate cortisol activity. Polyphenols improve insulin signaling efficiency. Fiber slows absorption slightly, preventing an immediate spike when portions are small. From a glycemic perspective, black raisins have a moderate glycemic index, but the real danger lies in glycemic load. Glycemic load reflects how much sugar actually enters the bloodstream in a realistic serving. A large serving of raisins has a very high glycemic load, but a very small serving can stay within a safe range, especially when paired correctly. This is why portion size is everything. The ideal nighttime portion of black raisins for a diabetic is 6 to 8 raisins only, no more. This amount provides just enough glucose to signal safety to the brain and adrenal system without overwhelming insulin capacity. Anything beyond this shifts raisins from stabilizer to spike trigger. Timing also matters. Black raisins should be eaten 30 minutes before bedtime, not earlier in the evening, and not as a late-night snack after lying down. This timing allows partial digestion, while insulin sensitivity is still relatively stable, reducing the risk of overnight spikes. Black raisins should never be eaten alone at night. Pairing is essential. When eaten with a few walnuts, the fats and fibers slow glucose absorption and blunt the glycemic response. This pairing turns black raisins from a risky food into a controlled tool. Another reason black raisins can help some diabetics at night is their effect on glucose variability. HbA1c is influenced not only by average blood sugar, but also by how often glucose swings. Nighttime swings are especially harmful because they occur over long fasting hours. A tiny controlled amount of raisins can prevent sharp drops and rebounds, leading to smoother overnight glucose patterns. Over time, this stability can influence HbA1c. HbA1c reflects average blood sugar over 8 to 12 weeks, and repeated overnight spikes quietly push it higher. Clinical nutrition observations suggest that improving nighttime stability, even without lowering daytime carbohydrates, can reduce HbA1c by 0.2 to 0.4 percentage points, particularly in people whose main issue is high fasting glucose rather than post-meal spikes. For example, someone with an HbA1c of 7.6% who experiences frequent morning spikes may see that value move towards 7.2 to 7.4% when nighttime stress responses are controlled. While this reduction may seem modest, it significantly lowers the risk of nerve damage, kidney strain, and long-term vascular complications. Black raisins also influence sleep quality when used properly. Sudden drops in blood sugar during sleep can trigger adrenaline and cortisol release, causing restless sleep or early waking. A very small amount of raisins before bed can prevent this drop, supporting deeper, more continuous sleep. Better sleep then improves insulin sensitivity the following day, creating a positive cycle. However, black raisins are not for everyone. Diabetics with very poor insulin control, or those who spike easily, may need to avoid them entirely at night. This is why self-monitoring is essential. Encourage viewers to test fasting sugar over 7 to 10 nights when experimenting with raisins, and stop immediately if numbers worsen. Quality also matters. Always recommend unsweetened, naturally dried black raisins, not sugar-coated or oil-treated varieties. Shiny raisins are often processed and digest faster, increasing spike risk. Hydration plays a role as well. Dehydration raises cortisol and blood sugar. Eating raisins with a few sips of water supports kidney function and reduces stress hormone activation overnight. One important caution to explain gently is psychological portion creep. Raisins are small, easy to overeat, and often consumed mindlessly. At night, this is dangerous. Precision is non-negotiable. Measuring the portion matters more than intuition. Encourage viewers to see black raisins as a strategic tool, not a snack. They are not eaten for pleasure at night. They are eaten for metabolic balance. When used intentionally, they can reduce stress-driven glucose release, smooth overnight patterns, support sleep quality, and contribute to better long-term control. Black raisins are not a magic food, and they are not universally safe. But for the right person, in the right amount, and paired correctly, they can play a valuable role in nighttime glucose stability. This is why black raisins earn their place as the second dry fruit on this list. Not because they are harmless, but because when respected, they can work with the body instead of against it. Third on the list, walnuts. When it comes to nighttime blood sugar, walnuts play a very different role than most dry fruits. They are not sweet, they don't cause quick glucose rises, and they don't rely on sugar at all to do their work. Instead, walnuts act quietly, working in the background to stabilize insulin signaling, calm stress hormones, and protect the body during the most vulnerable hours of sleep. This is why walnuts are often the safest and most reliable dry fruit for diabetics at night. At night, the body naturally becomes more insulin resistant. Muscles slow down glucose uptake, the liver becomes more active, and hormones that influence blood sugar shift to support overnight survival rather than strict glucose control. This is why even small metabolic disturbances can show up as higher fasting blood sugar in the morning. Walnuts work directly against this problem, not by adding sugar, but by improving how the body handles glucose that is already present. One of the most important reasons walnuts work so well at night is their high content of healthy fats, especially omega-3 fatty acids. These fats slow digestion and reduce inflammation, which directly improves insulin sensitivity. When inflammation is lower, insulin receptors respond more effectively, allowing glucose to move out of the bloodstream and into cells more efficiently, even during sleep. Walnuts are also rich in magnesium, a mineral that plays a central role in insulin signaling. Magnesium helps insulin bind properly to its receptors and allows glucose transporters to function efficiently. Many people with diabetes are unknowingly magnesium deficient, and this deficiency becomes more noticeable at night when insulin sensitivity is already reduced. Eating walnuts before bed helps replenish magnesium levels right when the body needs it most. Another powerful benefit of walnuts at night is their effect on the nervous system. Walnuts contain compounds that support brain health and nerve signaling, helping calm the nervous system before sleep. A calmer nervous system means lower cortisol levels. Cortisol is one of the strongest triggers of overnight glucose release from the liver. By reducing cortisol activity, walnuts indirectly reduce liver-driven glucose spikes that show up as high fasting sugar. Protein in walnuts also plays a subtle but important role. During sleep, the body repairs tissues, including muscles. Muscles are the largest glucose-absorbing tissue in the body. When muscle repair is supported overnight, glucose uptake improves the next morning. Walnuts provide just enough plant protein to support this repair process without overstimulating digestion. From a glycemic standpoint, walnuts are ideal for nighttime use. Their glycemic index is extremely low, and their glycemic load is almost negligible at proper portions. This means walnuts do not raise blood sugar directly. Instead, they improve glucose control indirectly by stabilizing hormones, slowing digestion, and enhancing insulin efficiency. This indirect effect is especially important for fasting blood sugar. Fasting glucose is often driven by liver activity rather than food. Walnuts help reduce unnecessary liver glucose release by signaling nutritional sufficiency to the brain. When the brain senses adequate fat and minerals, it sends fewer stress signals to the liver, allowing glucose output to remain controlled. Over time, this nighttime stability has a measurable impact on HbA1c. HbA1c reflects average blood sugar over 8 to 12 weeks, and nighttime glucose contributes significantly to this average. Repeated small spikes during sleep can quietly raise HbA1c, even when daytime readings appear controlled. By reducing overnight variability and improving insulin sensitivity, walnuts help lower cumulative glucose exposure. Nutrition-based clinical observations show that regular intake of nuts like walnuts can reduce HbA1c by zero point 0.3 to zero point 0.6 percentage points over 12 weeks, particularly in people with insulin resistance and elevated fasting glucose. This reduction may seem modest, but even a 0.5% drop in HbA1c significantly reduces the risk of diabetic nerve damage, kidney decline, and cardiovascular complications. For example, someone with an HbA1c of 7.7% who struggles mainly with fasting sugar may see that number gradually move closer to 7.1 to 7.3% when nighttime glucose is stabilized consistently. These changes don't happen overnight, but they compound quietly with consistency. Walnuts also help reduce glucose variability, which is another hidden contributor to HbA1c. HbA1c is influenced not only by average glucose levels, but also by how often glucose spikes. Nighttime spikes are especially harmful because they last longer and occur during fasting. Walnuts smooth these overnight fluctuations, creating a more stable glucose curve. Sleep quality is another major advantage. Walnuts support deeper, more restful sleep by calming the nervous system and reducing nighttime stress responses. Better sleep improves insulin sensitivity the next day, creating a powerful positive loop. Better sleep leads to better glucose control, and better glucose control leads to better sleep. The correct way to use walnuts at night is simple and precise. The ideal portion is 3 to 4 walnut halves, eaten 20 to 30 minutes before bedtime. This amount provides enough fat, magnesium, and protein to stabilize glucose without overloading digestion. Eating more than this does not improve results and may slow digestion or interfere with sleep. Walnuts can be eaten alone or paired with a very small portion of black raisins if needed. When paired, walnuts act as a buffer, slowing sugar absorption and preventing spikes. This pairing works best for people who experience nighttime hunger or early morning glucose surges. Preparation matters. Walnuts should be raw or lightly soaked, not roasted or salted. Salt can worsen nighttime thirst, blood pressure, and glucose variability. Soaking walnuts improves mineral absorption and makes them easier to digest at night, which further enhances their stabilizing effect. One gentle caution is portion discipline. Walnuts are calorie-dense, and overeating them at night can slow digestion and disrupt sleep. At night, precision matters more than abundance. Encourage viewers to track fasting glucose trends over 10 to 14 days rather than focusing on single readings. Many people will notice fewer morning spikes, more predictable numbers, and improved sleep quality. Over 8 to 12 weeks, these improvements often reflect clearly in HbA1c results. Walnuts are not a cure, and they don't replace medical care. But when used intentionally, they become one of the safest and most effective nighttime foods for diabetics. They strengthen insulin signaling, calm stress hormones, nourish the nervous system, improve sleep, and protect long-term glucose markers, all while the body rests. This is why walnuts earn their place as the third and final dry fruit diabetics can rely on at night to wake up with lower blood sugar and better long-term control. If this helped you understand nighttime blood sugar better, like the video and subscribe to Diabetes Healthcare. Try one of these dry fruits tonight the right way and track your morning sugar for 7 days. Small nighttime choices can change your mornings.